Hello everybody, I hope you're doing well. Thanks for coming. It's good to see you today. My name is Jeff Gibby. I'm just going to be behind the scenes running the control room. Hello Steve, thanks for saying hi. As you can see from the timer right here, we're going to start in 4 minutes and 43 seconds. If you missed it yesterday, we did a really good online trader summit. It was all day long. I'd recommend you go look at it. We had some really good speakers. It's on our channel, youtube.com/MetaStock. Just look at yesterday's video and enjoy. It was really good session. Anyway, we'll be ready to start in just a few 4 minutes, 16 seconds, and see you in a minute.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and take off my headphones now that I don't need those anymore. Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome to today's webinar on MetaStock 18. We've done a few of these and we've been getting great reception from everybody who's already upgraded and what's coming in. So I'm excited today to take you through MetaStock 18, show you what it's all about, what we've put in there. And of course, you know, the first thing we always get to do here at MetaStock is read a disclaimer to you before we get started. Now, before I read the disclaimer, so you have a minute to do this, I'd like you to go ahead and put in chat, both on YouTube and on GoToWebinar, if you already have MetaStock 18 or if you're here to learn about it. So just give me a yes if you have it, a no if you're here to learn about it. So that way I can know what we're looking at today as we go through the presentation. So I'll go ahead and get started on the disclaimer while you're doing that. This demonstration is designed to instruct you on using MetaStock and accompanying software plugins, and is not a recommendation to buy or sell, but rather guidelines to interpreting and using the specific indicators and features within the software. The information, software, and techniques presented today should only be used by investors who are aware of the risk inherent in trading. MetaStock should have no liability for any investment decisions based on the use of their software, any trading strategies, or any information provided in connection with the company. Okay, so let's take a look at kind of what we have going on here. So it looks like we have kind of a mix so far today. We have some people who have it, some people who don't. So keep responding. It looks like I have a few that I'm looking for answers for, but that gives me an idea to get started. So let's go ahead and jump in and talk about what is new inside of MetaStock 18. So we're going to start with a brand new chart. So we have worked hard over the last several years to put a new chart into MetaStock. Now the chart that's already in MetaStock in the previous versions has always been a very powerful function of MetaStock. So it was kind of a challenge to sit down and look at how we could reinvent the charting in MetaStock to make it even more powerful. And I think you're really going to like what you see and what we've done in making the chart even better inside of MetaStock 18. So we're going to talk about the chart. We're going to talk about some new functions inside the Power Console. We've done some updating there. We've updated to option scope and put in some new options analysis tools, some sentiment indicators, and some strategies. We've made some enhancements to Quote Center, some new ease of use features, systems and strategies, and single sign-on for MetaStock DC. So we'll talk about all of that. Great. Okay, well, it looks like we're getting some more answers. Have the software, just loaded it, and here to learn about it. Yes, I have it. No, I don't yet. Yes. Okay, great. So we've got a great mix here. And over on YouTube, yes. Okay, great. So we're getting some good answers. So let's dive right in. Let's learn about what's new and how to use them. If you have it, I'm going to show you some cool things about how to do some different things. If you don't, you're here to learn about it and see what you can do. So we're going to talk about the new chart features first. So the first thing we're going to talk about are the charting styles. And we've really enhanced what you can do with the different charting styles. Then we'll talk about themes, some new updates to indicators, scrolling around in the chart, drawing tools, and chart usability. So we're going to go through all of that. Let's start by talking about the charting styles. So we're going to spend most of our time in the software. We're not going to spend it in PowerPoint because this is where you're going to learn about what's new. Okay, so when you first come into the chart, it feels both similar and different at the same time. And it's kind of hard to put your finger on it, but really there's a crispness and overall update. You know, it just feels updated, it feels new, it feels refreshed. So let's go ahead and take a look at what's new. So the very first thing, if you're new to MetaStock, or if you have had a previous version, the very first thing you might notice is the candlesticks are filled when you first come into it. So what we've done is we've tried to customize this based off of user feedback to allow you to do more with the chart and the charting styles. So the very first thing we'll talk about here is candlesticks, because candlesticks is kind of the most popular charting style. So we added quite a few different enhancements to it to make it easier to use. So when I come in here, how I got there is I just double click it. That's the easiest way to get to anything in MetaStock, is to double click. And when we come in here, you can see now I have this up color, up fill color, down fill color. So this up fill and down fill is brand new. So this has all been added in. And now you can change the way that the colors on the candlestick calculate. Right now it's defaulted to open to close. So it's looking at an open to close ratio, or you can look at close to close. So you can change those, and you can see if I apply that, it changes my view of candlesticks to more of a traditional type of view. If you prefer that always filled, you can change it to always fill now and keep it filled and choose how you want it to calculate, open to close or close to close. So that's all customizable now and available for you to kind of play with. Now, when you come into colors, this is kind of nice as well. You can change your fill color to be different than your up color or your down color. You can also change transparency in it. So if you prefer it to be a little lighter of a fill, we can do that on both of them. You just click on advanced and you can change the fill. You can also just slide these scales around to change colors. I'm not going to go into that, but you can play with those and tweak it however you want. And you can see if I apply it, that fill gets lighter. Okay, so you can customize all that and play with all that. All of that is customizable in CandleVolume. If you like to look at CandleVolume, basically the same thing as a candlestick, but you get a wider bar with higher volume. So you can see that there. So you can change all these same customizations across these different charting styles. Another new addition to MetaStock 18 is the Heiken-Ashi. This has been a huge ask from people over the last few years. We've put this in, and just to give you a quick view of Heiken-Ashi. Heiken-Ashi, we're not going to go into the calculations and everything, but it's a great type of candlestick charting that takes out a lot of, it smooths out your view is a good way to put it. So you can see I don't have gaps in this chart. It helps you see a truer picture of the trend. So it's a little bit more of a charting style that helps you take that smoothed out look on it. So this has been a big ask, so we've added that in. The colors are all customizable again. Line, we've actually added in new plot styles with line. So if I come in here, you can see these new 6 plot styles. So if I were to change this to, if I just do a standard line, you'll see it's just a standard line in there. But now you can do a stepped line, a filled line, stepped filled line. Just to give you an example here what that looks like. So you kind of more of a histogram view for pricing. You can change all that as well. You can also do dot and standard histogram for your charting styles. But let's go back to candlesticks here. Okay, and it looks like Jeff's doing a great job over on the YouTube chat, so I don't have any questions over there. But if you do have questions about what we're covering as we go through the presentation, certainly feel free to ask it as we go through, because we want to make sure we get all your questions answered about MetaStock 18. Okay, so that's a quick overview of the charting styles. There's a lot more that we've done here. And then the next one is actually themes. And I love themes. It's awesome. If you wanted to change the background color, you would have to right click, you have to go chart window properties, you have to change the window, you have to change your indicator colors to match. You have to do a lot to get your color just where you want it. We've taken that, we've made that a lot easier. So if I come down here down to the right hand corner, you have this little paintbrush. And if I click on this paintbrush tablet, you can see I have all of these different themes now. So basically, all I have to do to change my color scheme is change my theme. So if I click that, you'll see it changes everything around the chart. And then also, it'll adapt the colors of what you're seeing on your chart so you can clearly see them. And one of the things that would happen is, let's say you were looking at a standard candlestick and it was black background, and you change your background, your chart color. Well, it would disappear because you changed your background to match your charting style, and you would disappear. So it was really cumbersome historically to change colors and pricing. And now you can just click on this, and you see as I change colors, this will automatically update the colors to match the theme that you're working with. We'll just do one or two more here to show you. Expression light, you can see kind of a gradient here. So you've got gradients that you can view. Sometimes this doesn't come across in the webinar, but on your home computer with your MetaStock 18, if you switch that, you'll see that happen. So oscilloscope, contrast, you can see the indicators just update. This one is my favorite one. The black steel kind of has the orange colors. And if you save a template, it will save the theme as part of the template. So it'll save those colors or your default template, whatever you want to set. That will all translate into a template for you as well. So very cool on themes. So there's a list of all the themes. And now we're going to talk about scroll preview. And this is one of my favorite changes because it actually makes it really, really easy to get around a chart, get right to the data that you need, and move around. So let's go back over here. So you probably noticed this as you're playing with MetaStock 18 or as I'm presenting here, you'll see this new line down here across the bottom. And what this is basically a preview of all the data that's loaded. So you can see this is going all the way back to what I've loaded as my first period, back to what my current data is. The area that's highlighted right here is what I'm looking at on my chart. So this is my current purview of the chart. Then down here, I have this little wheel. I can grab this and I can move it to different areas of the chart. So if I wanted to see the Corona crash, I could just drag it and there it is right there. If I want to zoom back in, I can go ahead and just grab that and scroll it back in. Now the classic plus and minuses work inside MetaStock. So if you're used to doing that, you want to zoom in with that, you can certainly do that. But you do have this new option. Now the other thing that I like is I can actually just grab this scroll wheel and I can just move it back in time so I can look at different areas of the chart. So it makes it easy to get to different areas of the chart. The other thing that's awesome about this is, let's just say I wanted to go right to the Corona crash. I didn't want to scroll back. I can just hover over where I want to go, click on it, and it'll zoom me right over to what I wanted to see. So that way I don't have to drag and scroll and look for it. I can just see that preview and I can go right to where these different big market moves happen to see what kind of happens. And then if I want to go back to where I started, just click at the beginning and it makes it really easy. Now, the other thing you can do is you can grab the chart with your mouse. So I'm just left clicking with my mouse and I'm just scrolling through. So I can just take this and kind of page through as well. So those are some options that are available to you. You can also use control and use your left arrow and right arrow to move the chart back and forth. So there's a lot of customizations that you can use with moving around the chart and kind of homing in on things and seeing what's going on with the data. So lots of different things with scrolling around and moving around. Okay, so we caught all that. Awesome. Let's talk about indicators. So indicators, obviously, a very big part of MetaStock and what MetaStock does. It helps us interpret the data. It helps us look at it. So we wanted to make indicators easier, as we've tried to do with everything inside of MetaStock 18, is make it easier. So let's jump in here. Up here at the top, of course, I have my most recently used. That was a feature in MetaStock 17. So I've got my most recently used indicators up here. Let's go ahead and just start with a moving average, though. I'm just going to scroll up here, find a moving average, and I'm just going to drag and drop it on my screen, as we always have. If I set, let's just say I'm doing a 20-period moving average, this all looks the same. But if I come over here to color style, you have a lot of new options. Okay, so if I plot this as a line, I can do that. I can now plot it as a step line, filled line, step filled line, dot, or histogram. So I have all these new options. So these are not under parameters anymore. These are under plot styles. Okay, so if I choose filled line, you see it gives me an option for color. So it's going to plot it red, and then it will also fill. So I can change that fill again if I want to make this a little darker fill or lighter fill, or kind of play around with the colors. I can do that. And then I can go ahead and click OK. And you'll see now that it does a fill with the indicator. So I can kind of see when it's out of the zone, or in, or when it's below the moving average, or when it's above the moving average. It makes it a little bit more visual to see. You can do that again with step line if you want to. So there's all these different styles in here that you can play with. But what's really cool now, let's change this to a standard line for now. Okay, so if I set this, you'll notice down here I have this new option. And this new option is to actually save the defaults for this indicator. So if I want to be able to plot this indicator in the same way every time without having to change the settings every time, I can now do that. So if I come in here and I choose save current page or save all pages. Now what it means by page is if I'm looking at color style, that's this page. If I'm looking at parameters, that's this page. So if I save current page, I'm just saving the color style sheet. If I do all pages, I'm saving everything across the board here. So it's saving all the parameters. Okay, so that you can save that now, and then when I come back and replot it, I don't have to change those settings. It's just done automatically. I'm not going to do that. This is a demo computer and a lot of people use it. So I just want to leave it. We want to make sure it doesn't show up that way for somebody else next time. Okay, so let's go ahead and click OK. So that's moving averages. Now, the other thing we've done is we've made indicators smart. And what I mean by that is, right now in MetaStock, if you go and you take an indicator that's supposed to be in its own window, like MACD, I have to drag it around and point it to where it needs to go and try and figure it out and know which indicators go in their own window, which ones don't. Well, the built-in indicators now will just automatically go where they need to go. So if I just bring this in and drop it and then click OK, you'll see it automatically plots in its own window. So it makes it easier to be able to plot those things. Okay. Let's bring on something like Bollinger Bands. Now, with Bollinger Bands, one of the other things that we've added is the ability to fill between indicator lines. So if you have an envelope, you can now fill between the envelope and set your parameters. So you can see right here, let's just plot it and then we'll come back to the properties. So you can see it's plotted and we have that fill in it. If I double click on it again and go back to color styles, this is something new that we've added as well. So historically, if you wanted to change the colors of the Bollinger Bands, you had to go into each line individually. It's a bit cumbersome, but now you don't have to do that. And when you go into an indicator, everything is right there in one place so you can change your settings. So let's just say I wanted to make my middle line invisible. So you can take out the middle line or any of the indicators and make them invisible. And I wanted the top band to be blue with a teal fill. Let's just make this a little more transparent and click apply. And you can see it will apply all those changes and I can have all this independently. So I know a lot of people really like to customize things and kind of make their indicators very visual on what they're trying to see. And we've really taken that to a next level with these different indicators and letting you do this. So this again, you can now save this as a default. So that way you can just get right to it. Makes it really easy. Okay, let's go ahead and cancel this. Okay, so now I've got that plotted. Now again, I can save this as part of a template. So if you like that view, it can be part of your template, or you can have your default set so you can automatically just get right back to them very, very easily. It's kind of awesome. I love it. Okay, let's go to some other indicators that we've added in. Now, one thing people always ask about is, we plotted the MACD a minute ago, is the MACD histogram. So we've actually built the MACD histogram into MetaStock, so it'll plot as a histogram. You don't have to recreate it and make it part of a template. So if I just drag and drop again anywhere, it will automatically plot for me, and it will add the MACD histogram onto the chart. Okay, so that's built in now as part of the built-in indicators. It's right next to the MACD. The other thing that we've built in is up-down volume. This has been a big ask as well, and that's already on the default template. But if you plot it, it's just called volume up-down is what you're looking for. So if I scroll down here, you'll see volume, and then you'll see volume up-down. Now, there is some differences in this one. If I come in here and I double click on the properties, what it does is it has this new field in here called the up-down field. And what this does is it lets you tell it whether you want to calculate based off of the close or based off of volume. So close is, it's going to look to see if you're closing lower than the previous day. If you're closing lower than the previous day, your volume will plot a different color, it will plot red. If you're closing above the previous day, your volume will plot red. So you can see those differences here. If you want to look at it volume-based and say, well, I want to see if volume's greater one day than the previous day, just switch it to volume and it will show you, like right here, we are below yesterday, so it's going to be red. Obviously, we're mid-market right now, but at the close of the day, it would show the difference there. But the default is close is what it comes in. You can change your up-down colors, you can change your weight as always here and play with it there. So lots you can do with indicators. One of my favorite things inside those indicators is being able to save the defaults and then also the fill, just kind of visually changing things and playing with that. Let me make sure I got everything inside of indicators because there is a lot, obviously. Okay, all values plot in the title bar, styled per line. We talked about that in Bollinger Bands. So each line you can do your own customizations with. We talked about indicators being invisible, auto drop. Ichimoku. Let's talk about that. So let's bring up a clean chart here just for a second. All right. So the Ichimoku, obviously it's a very big indicator. A lot of people use it. One of the things in MetaStock is it never plotted into the future. And now it does. So if I plot this, the single span A and the single span B will do the default 26 bars into the future as it's supposed to. And you can customize that if you want to change any of the periods, you can change that. Again, you can change each color per line here, all in the same indicator, so you don't have to bounce around. And it's awesome. We love it. All right, so that is all the updates on indicators. So a lot there, a lot of different changes. You know, and as I talk about all these things, again, a lot of these things are familiar because they're, you know, we try to keep it a lot the same, but also give you all this new functionality. So there's a similarity to it, so you don't get lost, but also these new enhanced changes. Let's talk about drawing tools. There's some awesome changes to drawing tools. I love these changes to drawing tools, and I think you're going to like them too, because it is a lot of this, again, is user driven. What our users have been asking for a long time, people like you saying, hey, it'd be great if I could do this in my chart. So let's just go back here and let's just zoom out a little bit. Okay, and I'm just going to take and draw a standard trend line on my chart. So if I just draw this, you're going to notice it's doing some new things here. And if I plot that, you're seeing it now will measure your percent change and number of periods. Let's actually double click on it here. And there's actually some customizations you can do. You can actually turn these off if you want to. Let's turn those off for a moment. So you see I have my standard trend line. And this is how it looks out of the box in MetaStock when you open it, first of all. So first of all, I can do right left arrows. Well, and people have asked, well, why would I want a right left arrow? Well, if you want to use the trend line to point at something, you can use that now. So you can, instead of having just a line pointing to it, you can point an arrow to it. We do have a lot of requests for that. You can add left, right arrows there. You can show a label, which is what we were just looking at. So you can do just percent change. We can do number of points. So you can see that's 55 points. You can show the number of bars. And you can also add your own custom label. So if I can just call this, we'll just call this a big trend, just to put it in there. and you can add that a custom label. Okay, so all this is customizable. And what's awesome is, again, and this is new for trend lines, is you can now save this. So if you save these defaults, it will remember it. And then every time you plot your trend line, whichever way you prefer to look at it, it will now plot that way. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about some of the other things. There are actually some other things in here. You can now have it snap mode. You can have it basically free-form draw with no snap mode, have it go to a specific period, or lock onto price. So you can see if I click price, it changes subtly, so it's locking on to the low price of where I had driven it there. So you can change any of these settings, and you'll see it'll just subtly change based off of the selection that you do. You can also set default colors and styles in here. So if I wanted my trend line to be red every time I plotted it with a little bit thicker weight, again, you can set all that and make that your default. So every time you plot it, it's going to look the same. So that is a huge, I'm just getting a question here. Are the descriptions functionality of new features within MetaStock 18, or are these within separate training? Hans, I'm not quite sure I understand your question. So I think you're asking if there are separate videos that show some of the other functionality of MetaStock 18. Could you just clarify that question? Then I'm getting a question over on YouTube. Is there a shortcut to switch from candlestick to line chart? And that's just do that. You just double click, switch to line, and then that'll switch it right over. Vanath is how that works. Okay. Great questions. Thank you. Keep them coming. Let's go ahead and take off the trend line there. And now defaults, again, are available in all of the different drawing tools. This one is a big one that people have been asking for forever, is if I plot the Fibonacci, you'll see that now it looks a little different right when you plot it. You have both the percentage and the price that will show up right on the line. If I go into settings, you'll see I can change my font to everything right here. But now you have this whole new tab for color style. If I want to color everything a different color, I can choose a default color and change everything to, say, green. But if I want each line independent, a different color, I can do that. Let's say I want this line red and I want it to be dotted and I want it a little thicker. I can do that. You can see that changes there. I can also, you've always been able to add in your own custom Fibonacci, but the problem is you've never been able to save it. So if I come in here and I add this and change my settings there, I can now save this as a default, and I don't have to worry about changing it every time I come into the Fibonacci. So this is awesome. I've had people email me and just go, it's worth it just for that. And it is. I mean, there's some great things in here to be able to change these, save all your settings, and do what you want to do there. Okay, so and then again here, you can set it to period, price, or none. So you can do that. You can also now calculate the Fibonacci's on a logarithmic scale instead, if you prefer to. So lots of customizations that you can again save, and it's your default. You don't have to do it every time. Okay, that's the same in Fibonacci retracements. You can do that. Another big enhancement in here was the odds probability cone. So the odds probability cone is a tool that was developed by Don Fishback. And this is something that's available in just about every platform out there because it's a great way of looking at probability and how things are going to move based off of probabilities. But when we were working on the chart, we actually talked to Don and said, hey, we're redoing all these tools. Is there anything you'd want to change? And he's like, wow, this is great timing. He's like, there's some awesome things I would love to change with the probability cone. So MetaStock is the first to have these defined changes specifically from Don Fishback. So what I can do is I can click on the probability cone. And as I'm plotting it, if you've never plotted this before, what would happen is you would get this probability zone. And now what he's decided is he's given two different probabilities to work from. So if I double click on this, you'll see I now have a 68.27% probability and a 95% probability. So he wanted to also add in the ability to add in your own probability. So if I say 33% and add that, you'll see I get all these ranges of probability now. So you can actually add in all these different levels of probability, because Don thought this would be a great way to enhance the tool and let people really kind of customize it. So his historical look back is 1,008 bars. You can change that. You can set a specific volatility for your calculation. You can see how that changes it, or your volatility look back. And then you can also add a drift per period. And that just gives it a little bit of variation based off of a drift. So I'm going to do a major one. So if you put in 1, it's going to be a big drift. So you can see how that shifts upwards. If I change this back to 0, and then change this up to just 1 here, you can see it's a very subtle shift. So this is a great enhancement to this tool. Specifically, again, we worked with Don Fishback, and this is going to be the first place you're going to find this, because we've worked with Don for a lot of years, and he wanted this in as part of the enhancements for our users to be able to use. A couple others we'll just highlight, and then we'll move on to the next. Andrew's Pitchfork actually had some big enhancements to it. So you can now plot your pitchfork, and you can go into it. And now we've added in multiple ways to calculate the Andrew's Pitchfork. So now you can render this on a standard basis, on the shift method, or the modified shift. So there's these 3 new styles for this. You can also add in warning lines. So let's just add in 2 warning lines, and you'll see it actually expands out the pitchfork, so you can see it a little more expanded. And then you can also add in custom lines. So we'll just add in some custom lines there and apply, and you can see those apply as well. Again, across all the different drawing tools, we've added the ability to save your defaults, save your colors. As you go through and modify all these things, then you can change them to be what you want. So, okay, let's go ahead and delete Andrew's Pitchfork there. Let's see if I got everything. I didn't get everything. Crosshairs. So we made an enhancement to the crosshairs. So now, as you can see, as I drag my crosshairs in, it'll show the price of where my crosshair is and also the date. So if I'm tracking, you can see it will automatically follow everything that I'm doing with my crosshairs. And then a Pitchfork, easier to access text properties. Again, this is a subtle one, but it's actually really nice. Let's just put some text in there. So I'll go ahead and put in my text. Let's go ahead and go into it. And we've put everything all in one place here, so you can change your font right up front. You don't have to go over to a different tab. So if I'd like my text bigger, I like my text to be red, and I could set fill colors. I can set default text colors. I could do a filled frame. So it's a lot more customizable. And again, you can save your defaults to be what you want to be. So, okay, so there is drawing tools. Okay, so we're going through here. We've covered a lot. I know we've been going through about 35 minutes, and we're still going through the chart. Listen, there's that much in the chart. I love it. Again, like I said, this is a brand new chart, bottom up, built it and put all these improvements in here. So let's talk about the axes and what's new in the axes. Let's actually start over in the y-axis here. So if I double click over here, actually, let's do this. Let's apply a template here. So we're going to find the popular template and put this on here. Okay, so one of the things that you're going to notice right away is we have our closing price. We've had the close price marker here, but we've also added in the different markers for the indicator. So you can see the last value right on the y-axis. And that's been a big user request to have those indicator values. you can go in and you can turn those on and off per window. So if I don't want to see them in this window, I can turn them off, I can turn them back on. So you can go into each window and set it on how you want to view it. So if there's different indicators, and do that easy enough. Oh, okay, Hans, I'm sorry, that is a great question. So I'm getting a question. If I want to use an indicator, but I want to understand the intricacies in the indicators, there help within MetaStock 18. So for example, if I wanted to learn how to use Dawn Fishback, how do I do that? Okay, so that's a great question. Thank you for clarifying that. Let me just go back to the Dawn Fishback and plot it here. Okay, so if I go in and if I double click on anything, I can always click on help, and it's going to take me through a detailed overview of what that specific thing is and how to use it. So you can go in and there's always help here when you're plotting something. You can always right click on an indicator as well and go to help, and it will take you to an overview, take you to interpretation, parameters, how to plot it, everything. So right click help is oftentimes your best friend. There's also a context sensitive help. So if you click on this and then you click on something, let's just say we click on this, it'll take me right to the probability cone. So there's a lot of different ways to get to that help. The right click help is usually the easiest, but if you can't find that, click on that context sensitive help, click on what you want to learn about, it'll take you right there. Great question, Hans, I appreciate that. Okay, we were talking about the axes over here. Okay, some other changes here now. You can now change how you want to view your different, the symbols on the side here. So if I want to only see 2 decimal places, I can change that. If I want to see them in fractions, I can change it and view in fractions. I can do an integer, or I can use the symbol definition. So that's all customizable now. You can also truncate price labels if you want to. You can set your scale. You also have now grid bands, which you're actually seeing on this template. In the back here, you can see grid bands are turned on. If I turn them off, it'll turn them off. You can still do the grid lines. Those are still available, but the grid bands are there as well. Down here in the x-axis, you're welcome, Hans. Let's see, you can now kind of minimize and maximize this stuff, but you've got a little bit more customization with how you want to view the data. I'm just going to show that message over on YouTube that Jeff is trying to give somebody. All right, there we go. There we go. Okay, I got it for you, Jeff. All right, so you can set all this customization. Over here, you've got bands. So just more flexibility inside the axes there. Let's see. Oh, one thing that is nice is you can kind of move the axis around. You could always do this inside the previous version of MetaStock, but if you got too lost, it wasn't easy to get it back. And we've kind of fixed that so you can really scale, and then you can always still reset your scale. So that drag and move around is easier. Okay, so this is the last of the chart updates, and then we're going to talk about some other things inside of MetaStock 18. So let's talk about these. So most recently used for selected time periods. This one's awesome if you like custom time frames and moving between time frames. So down here, you have this interval button where you change your time frames. So historically, it's always been if you were on a daily, it was a D, weekly, it was a W. If you were on anything intraday, you had an I. But now if you click on it and you say you go to a 10-minute, it will actually show you what time frame you're on here. It'll say interval minute 10, so you know exactly what time frame you're on. You can see it up here as well, but this makes it known to you down here when you're selecting what you're going to be going for. So intraday hour 4, so 4-hour bar. Interval hourly, 5-minute, so you can switch between those. Now, the other thing that we've done is you'll notice I have a few different time frames right here. So these are custom time frames that I've changed. So if I come in here and let's say I wanted to do a 15-minute bar, and I do OK. And then now click this, you'll see it's now in my most recently used. So we have a most recently used for custom timeframes that you can set your time frame and it will remember the most recent for. So this makes it a lot easier, because one of the complaints was with people was, oh, I have to select my custom time frame every time I have to custom. So this is why we put this in, is so you can just bounce around and switch to the most recent time frame that you have. Okay, so again, just bounce to 75, back and forth. Okay, change tile settings as charts load. So if you load a lot of charts at one time, so let's say you load 30 charts, 40 charts, 100 charts, if you typically it will load whatever style you have up here selected, and then once it's done, you can change charts around. So we changed that, so as it's loading, you can start moving charts around and setting them up how you want to see them. We're not going to load 40, 50 charts right now, but that's something you can do. Allow chart to show inactivity gaps and time zones. Okay, so if I right click and I go to chart window properties, you can see I can now set your default time zone where you want to see the time zone of the chart by default. So right now, like I'm looking at the Dow, I'm looking at it in Eastern time. If I wanted to see it in Mountain time where I am, I could set that so I could see that trading session is what that is. Then you can select display inactivity gaps, select futures or overnight sessions. You can have those displayed right there. You can turn on your pre and post market trades if you want to as well, and that will fill that in. But you can see those inactivity gaps because that's when it wasn't trading. Okay, so you can add that in. Let's just go back to our standard chart. And there we go. So that's everything new in the chart. So let's talk about what's new in the Power Console. So that is a lot. Obviously, again, we've been going for 42 minutes and we just covered the chart. Now there are other things that you may notice in there. There's a lot of little intricate details of things we've changed and made things work differently, but we don't have time to cover every single one of them in this presentation, but there's a lot there. So I hope you love the chart. I love the chart. So let's go on to what's new in the Power Console. So first of all, that custom time frame selection that I just showed you also goes into the Power Console. So when you're working with those different time frames, they're available in the Power Console when you set them there. So if you set them here, it would also be on the chart level. So that moves around. So you'll notice a few different things here on the Power Console from previous versions. You can minimize and maximize these things as you're done working with them. If you just always work with the defaults, you can just leave them minimized, kind of clean up some space. But this first one's actually a lot of fun because what you can do is you can actually use it to find either where something is traded or a symbol or a name very, very easily with this new search. So you've always had the instrument search where you can search for things. And where this new search is a little different is it helps me identify where something is traded. So if I come down here in this search and let's just say I type Apple, you can see my lists down here are starting to change because it's what it's looking for, things that just match what I'm typing. So if I type Apple, you can see now it's only selecting where anything has Apple or anything loaded. Okay, even on local data, it will search on local data or it will search across everything. So if I wanted to do, say, oil, okay, it's going to search for just everything that has oil. If you use local data and that's all you use is local data, it kind of feels like going back to the older versions where you could type in something and then you could pick from which folder you wanted to open something. So that's a great kind of a throwback that people have asked for is to how do I get to something in a specific folder very easily, and that's a great way to do it. You can just search for something and look for it out of your list, okay? So that is an awesome feature. I love this because it just makes it easy to find things and then pull it out of whatever specific folder that I want. Again, so Tesla, I can see all the lists that it's in. Okay. You can also do it by symbol if you wanted to. So let's just say I typed in MSFT.O because I know that's where it is, it'll just narrow down to the ones that are in the list. Okay, so that's a new feature there as well. Over here in the Explorer, you also have that same list, but you're going to notice this looks very different than it did in MetaStock 17. So you don't have the plus, minus, expand and contract thing anymore. So what you have is, I do have more explorations in here because this is a demo computer. But if you're looking at your explorations in here in MetaStock, you can now just scroll through them, select the ones that you want. And then you'll notice up here that we've added in a favorites tab. So it's different than it was before. You didn't have to plus minus, it's just right here. If I want to add things to my favorites, I can just right click, add selected explorations to favorites. Let's come over here, and you can see they're just over here in favorites. So I can just move over into my favorites tab and just spend my time here rather than scrolling through and looking for the exploration that I want. Speaking of having to scroll through and look for the explorations that I want, we've made this new search over here for explorations. So let's say I wanted explorations dealing with the MACD. Well, I can just come over here and start typing, and it will just narrow down and show me the explorations that match what I've searched. So these are all ones that have the MACD in them. If I wanted to look for candlestick, I didn't need to do it all in caps, so I was holding that down, but you can see I've now done that. And then I could just select them, and I could go and run whatever scan that I want to, or I could add them to favorites. So select them, add them to favorites. Oh, let's clear out our scan over here. And then if I come back here, you'll see they're now in favorites as well. And then I can just select all my favorites, run my scans, easy peasy. It's awesome to be able to do that. We've also put those over here into the system tester. So if you're looking for things in the system tester, again, if you're looking for MACD, I can just, oh, there's the test that I want, and move on. Makes it a lot easier, makes your life a lot easier to find and get to what you're looking for rather than spending a lot of time scrolling and searching. Let's see. Okay, yeah, that's everything in the Power Console. So some awesome updates there. Okay, over in Quote Center. Quote Center is a great place to load your list. So if you like to watch your watch list, kind of what's going on, let's load up my QC demo here. I'll go ahead and open up that list. Now, when you get MetaStock 18, a great way to kind of go and learn about some of these different features as well is to actually, when you get MetaStock 18, one of the things that we're giving as part of the promo right now is the Unleash the Power of MetaStock 18. And in Unleash the Power of MetaStock 18, you also get the videos that go along with it. And this kind of walks through the workflows of how to open up your charts, how to open up Quote Center with lists, how to create lists, all those things. So if you want to learn more about that, go through those Unleash the Power of MetaStock videos. We also did 25 new support videos around MetaStock 18 as well to cover everything. So there's a lot of resources for you to learn about these different features and how to build all these lists and do all these things. So keep that in mind as I go through this presentation as well. Okay, we have now our list open, and we've added this gainers losers bar up here at the top. So you can see I'm looking at these 98 stocks. I think it was based off of the S&P 100, and I was playing with it. But you can see what's going on in the market very quickly from a list like this. So we have 25 up today, 73 down. Obviously a very bearish day on the market because of what's going on today, right? So you can look at this, and then I could come down here, and then I could rank based off of that last column to see what's going on. We can rank on net change. Okay, wow. Bookings, holdings down. Wow, a net change. I was looking at net change. I was like, wait a minute. Okay, so down 3%. So you can rank on any of these columns and look at it that way. Okay, so some cool things you can do with Quote Center. Other things we've done up here, we've kind of taken away that sidebar and just put all your settings up here, make it kind of easier to bounce around where you can turn everything off. You also have, when you set your theme here in Quote Center, it will also go into option scope. So if I had the light theme set, that's what option scope would look like, and vice versa. So that shares a theme. The other thing that we've done is in the chart up here, if I set a template, let's just do the Darvis box template. And now I open up a chart from here. If I double click, you'll see it will open up with Darvis box. Let's get those in the background here. So anytime I open any of these, it will open up with Darvis box because that's what I set it in the Power Console. Okay, so it's kind of just a shared feature. So if you'd like to open up things with the template from Quote Center, you can go over there and do that. Okay, so that's Quote Center. Let's close this, close all these charts. Okay, so we may go over a few minutes today. I'm going to try my best to keep it around that hour mark, but we're probably going to go over a few minutes because there's so many new features. And next we're going to be talking about option scope, which we've made quite a few enhancements to. Now, even if you don't trade options, I know we have a fair amount of people who trade options and use options in their trading, but we also have a lot of people who are just equity traders. And even if you're not an options trader, as an equity trader, you have to pay attention to the options because there's a lot that they can tell you. And the very first thing that we put in here is this sentiment viewer around options to kind of give you a picture of what's going on with the options without actually trading any options. So let me show you what I mean by this. So let's come back here. Let's go to option scope. And I'm just going to open up options for Apple. Let's go expire the next 90 days, 15% around strike price, and monthly. Let's go ahead and open up these. Oh, I actually tried to type Apple as the word Apple. Let's go ahead and type that in and go here. Okay, and while this loads, you'll notice this looks a little different here. We've got this new section down here, which we will get to in a moment. Where I want to focus first is up here at the top. Okay, so what we're seeing up here is this option sentiment viewer. It's a put call ratio, basically, is what it is, but it's a little different than what you may see with the typical put call ratio. Because what this is doing, it's looking at volume and open interest, but what it's doing is it's looking at volume and open interest of the options you are looking at. So if I come up here and click on the grid options, which is now different up here, I chose those monthly options. Let's just say that, let's just focus this down a little bit more. And let's just look at March and April. And you're going to see as I'm choosing these different things, it's changing my put call ratio. Because what it's looking at, again, is what I'm looking at. So what it does is it just takes a summation of open interest on the call side and open interest on the put side, and then volume on the call and put side as well. And then it gives us this bar of where the open interest is. And this one is actually kind of interesting. It's very on parity. They're very close. So we have 75 versus 69 over here. So they're really close. So Apple's people are kind of playing both sides of it. There's not really a clear decision on this. So let's maybe look at something where I can show you a little bit of a difference with, like, maybe the Dow. Let's go to DIA. Because DIA is pretty bearish today, and you can see that reflected in the options. So that we can see this 42K over here versus 68 over here as the open interest. Okay, so the volume, we have 3K basically, and then 3,400 on volume. So we're more bearish on both volume and on the open interest. So this is a great way to gauge kind of where that interest is on a specific security. So if I'm trading the Dow and I get a sell signal, Well, I could come in, I could look at the options and say, oh, well, my sentiment on options is matching. So that's an extra confirmation. So that's a way that you can use that. I can also now scan for the top option based off of volume and the top option based off of open interest. So if I click top, you'll see it zooms down and it finds out of the ones I have open, again, the one with the most, I think I clicked volume there, so the one with the most volume. If I were to do open interest, so here's my open interest. So where people are buying the options or have the open interest actually is at the 320 on for the March contract. Okay, if I go to volume again, where more people are trading is at the 340 for the March contract. Okay, so some ways you can kind of hone in on some of this options data and look at the options data and what's going on. I like this feature a lot. It's a great way to just quickly view what's going on with an option and get that sentiment. Next, you're going to notice we now have the strategies down here. So you can now plot risk for your options as well. So this has been a big ask as well, is this ability to plot risk. So let's just say, since we're on the put side today, let's find a long put and just show you how this will work. So if I click on a long put, what it's going to ask for is my instrument, my strike price, buy price, and number of contracts. Well, rather than typing all that in, let's find our top open interest again. Okay, it was this one right here. And let's just click on it. And if I click on it, it will just fill in all the data that I need in order to be able to plot my risk graph. Okay, so we chose the 320 strike price, buy price at 390, and number of contracts. If I change that to say 5 and click go, then it will auto calculate and give me my risk graph. Okay, so down here, you'll see I have my underlying price. So this is where the underlying price is right now. Okay, and then this is my long put. This is where, and then this is my break-even point. Okay, and then from my break-even point, you can then calculate out your profits. It's also going to show you your risk down here and what your loss would be based off of the price that you're paying if you let it go to expiration. So that's your max risk, max reward. And then it'll also show it right here for you. Now, if you don't like these colors, this is all customizable as well. You can change your theme again. Let's scroll over here and let's maybe change it to the light theme. Might show a little bit better on the, there we go. There we go. You can probably see that better on the webinar with that. Okay, so there's my break-even point, long put, and underlying price. Now, as I go through, and if I were to just start clicking through these different options, you'll see it will calculate based off of the option that I'm looking at rather than having to go through and type in all the information. If I were to switch this to a long call, just to show you, I could then click on an option and then it will calculate there and show me that risk graph for that as well. If you were doing, if you did one with multiple legs, so let's say we did a long straddle, okay, and this isn't how you do it, but I'm just going to click a couple of ones. If I click the first one, then the second one, it will just automatically click. And if you zoom like that, you can click refresh chart and it'll take you right back to where you were. So it's easy to kind of move around the chart and the data to calculate your different risks based off of the different options. So there's 9 different strategies built in here. You can see those strategies here. And again, you can just, so if I wanted anything with long in it, I could just search and that will give me anything with long in the title. So that same type of search built in right there. So I've loved the search across MetaStock and being able to look for things and find things a lot easier. It's made my life a lot better. When I first started playing with 18 and then I went back to 17 and I didn't have the search, I felt lost without it. So it's, as you get used to those things, you're gonna be like, wow, how did I not have this before? So you'll get that feeling. So a lot in option scope, a lot of new data presented to you with this option sentiment and the ability to scan for those top options. is kind of a great little tool. I always found myself scrolling through and looking for that kind of top option to kind of figure out what's going on. So those are some great additions there as well. Okay, let's see. Let's go make sure I got everything there. Put call ratio, top search. There's the option strategies, customizing your colors and the shared theme. So that's everything that's new inside of option scope. So again, there was a lot there. Let's go to new systems. So we put in a lot in the new systems as well. So first of all, we put in 54 new performance systems. We're going to talk about that. Updates to the Haguro system. We're not going to go into that specifically today, but there's some great videos on the Haguro system. And basically what we did is we kind of adjusted the system around today's more volatile markets. So if you've used the Haguro, it's got an update in it to change the percentage. I think it was from 7% up to 10% is what changed there. But let's first of all talk about the new performance systems, and then we'll talk about the Daryl Guppy Trade ATR indicators, which are some great indicators for helping you protect profit with stops. Okay, so Performance Systems Plus. So there has always been what we call 26 performance systems built into your MetaStock. So if you were to go into MetaStock and look, you'd see 26 different strategies that started with PS. Those were the performance systems. And then we had this add-on called Performance Systems Plus, which would give you an additional 54 systems and strategies. And then it was a complementary package. And if you wanted to get the additional 54 systems and strategies, you'd have to pay $299 to get the Performance Systems Plus. Well, that's now included as part of MetaStock 18. So if you don't have Performance Systems Plus, getting the upgrade is actually cheaper than getting Performance Systems Plus would have been. So you get the upgrade plus Performance Systems Plus, which is plus. It's awesome. Okay, so here's all the strategies that are included in here. Now, we're not going to go through each of these strategies today. There's some great help inside of MetaStock showing you, talking about these systems and strategies. The cool thing is about this too, these are all open source as well. So you can actually go in and look at the code and play with the code if you want to, which isn't typical with a lot of the systems that are out there. So all open source codes for you to go through and play with. But I do want to show you just a couple things, talk to you about how it was developed. So it was tested over 10,000 combination of systems and stocks. So kind of, hey, does this work with this? Does this work with this? And back tested very rigorously over time. So it's done on daily stock data, no trade delay, no stops included. Low price, low volume stocks weren't included. And it was deemed desirable if the trade efficiency was positive for more than 50% of the stock analyzed. So what that means is, they really wanted to make sure that the efficiency of the systems really worked well. And it was only saying when the stock said buy, when the system said buy, and when the system said sell, sell. There were no stops included. It was just a real rigorous, how did this perform getting in, getting out, getting in, getting out is what it looked like. So that's how it was developed. So let's just show you some things that you can do with performance systems. One of the things that people really like to do with performance systems is back test them, because you can really take this good collection of systems and put it against your stock to see which one's performing best. And this is where that new search comes in really, really well inside of the system tester. So if I just come in here and I type PS, it's going to just bring in all the performance systems. I can then just select them all. So now I've selected all the performance systems and I could put it against a stock. So let's just say we'll put it against Tesla. And then I can start my system test and it will go ahead and run through. Oh, didn't click start. So as I click start, it'll then go ahead and run against my 80 performance systems and identify how they've performed. So you can see these are actually pretty well performing systems. They're not all going to perform well on every stock because the personality of the system doesn't always match the personality of the stock. And that's why we backtest. And there's some great videos in that Unleash the Power of MetaStock that walk you through some great workflows on backtesting and how to see if backtesting works. So when you get your upgrade, make sure you get Unleash the Power of MetaStock so you can watch those videos. And that's free with your upgrade. So let's just rank on percent gain here. And here it shows that the Arun reversal system was the best performing. And I looked over 750 bars, and it looks like it traded 7 times over 3 years. So you'd have to decide if that's something that you're comfortable with, how long that trades or how often that trades. The next performing system is this PS fractal trading system, trades 31 times. And you can go in and do all this analysis. I don't want to make this about the system tester because there's a lot to learn about the system tester. We can make this a whole other presentation, but there's some cool things that you can do with these performance systems and doing multiple security system testing and getting into it. And I do walk you through that in the Unleash the Power of MetaStock videos. And those Unleash the Power of MetaStock videos, if you have 18, are on your My Downloads page, along with the manual that walks you through step-by-step on how to do things. And if you don't have it, when you get it, they'll just appear right on your downloads page. Okay, so the other indicators I wanted to talk to you about here is the Daryl Guppy ATR indicators. And these are really cool for helping you protect stocks. And this is, as we talk to market experts and tell them what we're doing inside MetaStock, they often come to us and say, wow, this is going to be really cool. Hey, I would love to add and give my indicators that I've been developing and let you put them into MetaStock. And that's what happened with Daryl Guppy here. If you're not familiar with Daryl Guppy, he is a great market technician, has written a lot of books, knows the markets kind of inside and out. And he talks a lot about protecting profits. It's one of the things that a lot of traders that we talk to struggle with. Well, I get into a trade, how do I know when to get out? Sometimes my sell signal comes too late and I've missed it. Well, an indicator like this is going to be a great resource for you to help you identify when to get out based off of ATR, average true range. Okay, so this is actually based off the work in his book, Stocks and Forex Trading. And there's 2 different indicators in here. One's for long trades, one's for short trades. And basically what it's doing is it provides confirmation of a trend break and protects your profits, and it uses ATR. So basically it'll ratchet with your indicator, and when you hit a stop, it'll let you know and then stop plotting. So let's show you how this works. Let's open up Apple here again. And what we're going to do is let's just put on the MACD expert, just as an example here. Okay, so I can see my buys and sells on here. And how do I know when to get out of the trade? Okay, so let's look at, say, this buy signal right here as an example. So I'm just going to scroll over here just a little bit. And what I'm going to do is mark my date down here because it is a little, and I'm going to write it down because I'll forget it. 6/7 of 21. So let's say I'm getting in to a trade on 6/7/21 right here, this buy signal. So what I would do is I'd go find my Guppy Traders ATR long, and I'll just drop it on the chart. And this is why I needed the date, because it wants you to put in the date that you're getting into the trade. So let's see. So we're getting in on 6/7. So 6/7 of 21. So it's using an ATR of 14, so average to range, again, measuring how much that stock moves on a daily basis. It has a multiplier, and then it asks you if you want to calculate on close or the low. Daryl Guppy recommends that you do it based off the close. That's his preferred method. Some people do like to use the low, so we're going to go ahead and plot it that way. Merge with scale on the right. And now what you're going to see here is you're going to see this ratcheting here. So here's my entry signal back here on 6/17, and you'll see the indicator just moves right along with the stock. And what it's looking for is a penetration of the ATR for your stop. So if I have this line here, so right here is where it penetrated, it gapped below in this circumstance. But then when it gapped out, you can see it stops calculating, and that means you've stopped out. Okay, so it's a really easy indicator to use. You just plot it right on your chart, right when you get into a trade. You just put in that day's date, and then it'll just calculate for you. So if I come back up here, oh, well, here's a great example. So let's, we've got our short here. So let's actually pull, let's see. The date here is 2/17. I'm thankful that Jeff left his pen in here from yesterday, so I can do that. And we're going to find our Guppy Traders ATR short. So we'll just find GT, ATR short. Okay, and what we're going to do is put our date, 22. Merge scale on the right. And you can see that indicator starting to calculate. It'll just run from that date forward. And as we move along, it will continue to calculate and then tell you where your stop is based off of that particular, and it's independent of your trading strategy. So if your trading strategy is X, you've developed your own, it doesn't matter. It's an independent way of looking at it. And if you have your own stop system, this could be a great confirmation follow through for you as well to use along with it. And this is a great addition to it. So like this MACD indicator, you would have been sideways in this trade for quite a while. Let's just put in our ATR long that day and show you what would have happened to get you out of this trade at this point. So let's, what was our date here? So 2/1/2024, okay. So let's just change my indicator here. To 1/22. Go ahead and click OK. And you can see it ratchets through because it gives you a loose stop because it sees it moves a lot. Because this, again, this is based off of ATR, so it wants to give you that range. So it actually gets you out back here before the MACD sell signal does. So it's a great way to use your this ATR to help protect your profits, help you manage your trades a little bit more, because that's what MetaStock's all about, is helping you manage your trades, protect your profits, and make better trades, okay? So I really like this ATR indicator. It does vary and move with your stocks and helps you identify that best time to get out. So that is our overview of MetaStock 18. Again, thanks for sticking with me for 15 minutes over, but you've seen a lot of the power. You've seen what MetaStock's capable of, how it's going to make your life easier in navigating with everything that you do day to day with MetaStock, because it kind of touches the core of everything again. It gets down, it's changed the chart completely. It's given you all these new updates to option scope, ease of use features, new systems and strategies. You just can't go wrong with that with MetaStock 18. You're going to love what you get with it. As you were, and I know we have some people here who are here to learn more about it. So I hope you've learned more about it. If you don't yet have MetaStock 18, if you don't have MetaStock at all and you want to try MetaStock, you can go to metastock.com/P222. If you have MetaStock and you want to upgrade, you can go to metastock.com/M222. Or you can talk with our sales staff. You guys know our sales staff. They are awesome. They're happy to answer any questions you have about MetaStock 18 and its capabilities by going to metastock.com/sales-chat or call us at 800-882-3040. And any of the guys on the phone will be happy to help you, walk you through what you need. If you have MetaStock 18 and you need help with anything, give our support staff a call. They're happy to help you with anything that you need in MetaStock 18 as well, and customizing it the way that you want to see it, saving those defaults and getting you all set up. So again, metastock.com/sales-chat, or go to any of the pages above to get MetaStock 18. But above all, thank you for coming again. Thank you for being MetaStock customers, or if you're not a MetaStock customer, a soon-to-be MetaStock customer. And above all, I wish you successful trading and stay safe out there.